So here is the exposure, and this man's a Chargers fan. You're going to see this as a theme here, and you're all in on Justin Herbert. All in.
Why would I not be? Mike McDaniel coming to town, offensive line improved. Not just Rashawn Slater. He was a second-team All-Pro as a rookie, left tackle. And he's so good, he forced Joe Alt to right tackle. Massive upgrade at left tackle. One of the best upgrades, if not the best, of any team. The offensive line, as Jim Harbaugh says, is the tip of the spear. The only unit on the team that does not need anyone else to be good, to have success. Meanwhile, their success determines how well everyone else performs. So Rashawn Slater, Joe Alt, hopefully healthy. But the Tyler Biadasz signing, like I just mentioned, moving from Washington, PFF rated him 11th in the NFL last year. Bradley Bozeman was like 38th, complete dog shit. He'd snap the ball and then just lay down on the floor, ready to fuck the whole football team, like the high school team's favorite cheerleader. The O-line could not be better. Mike McDaniel has the best system. They're messing with his footwork, adjusting that to have more motion, get the ball out quicker. Herbert threw for 5,100 yards his second season in the league. Meanwhile, Tua led the league in passing his first year with Mike McDaniel at 4,600. Herbert will be the MVP. That's my bet.
Whoa. That is really hot, but I got to say, I absolutely love it. I mean, MVP. So that's also probably going to be fantasy MVP, right? If he's the MVP, he's going to be fantasy MVP based on his ADP.
I have him as my quarterback 4.
That is spicy. I like Herbert a lot. I also like Dak in that range. And in best ball, I love going late quarterback. It's the rushing upside where we saw last year was out of necessity. Justin Herbert does not want to run. He wants to sit back there and be a pocket passer, which he should be. That's his strength. But he's also a gazelle. And do you see the rushing taking a giant step back? Like 50% less, 30% less? What do you think?
Well, he had just shy of 500 rushing yards last year in 16 games. I think if he plays all 17, no. He missed week 18. Yeah, he missed week 18. All 17 games, I would assume that falls down to closer to 400. But, just to stay on brand, he's going to have 420 rushing yards this year. Book it. 420.
What a guy.
Check out the big brain on Brad. You're a smart motherfucker. That's right.
Can I make one more selling point on Herbert real quick?
Do it.
The narrative of the fantasy playoff schedule, those 3 games, week 15, 16, and 17, I don't think could be better. Week 15, they are hosting the Niners on a Thursday night. The Thursday night game is the only dilemma, but it's a primetime matchup. And it's a double revenge game for not just Mike McDaniel, but also Jim Harbaugh. You don't think they're going to fucking show up against Kyle Shanahan week 15? Without Robert Saleh, that defense is not going to be as good. So week 15, they're going to fucking crush on Thursday. Then they get a mini bye. And who is their next matchup week 16? They're going on the road at Miami, the team that not only let go of Mike McDaniel, fired him after 2 playoff appearances with a dog shit roster and Tua Tagovailoa, but also the team that passed on Herbert for Tua. You don't think after McDaniel dropped 70 on the Broncos that the Chargers can't drop 70 on the fucking Dolphins after a few extra days of rest? That week 16 game you want in your lineup. You want the Chargers week 16. Then week 17, they come back home at SoFi. And who's their matchup? It's the Kansas City Chiefs, the big brother in the division, who they swept last year. They beat twice. And it wasn't just because Mahomes tore his ACL. He also threw a pick right before that happened. He was desperate to move the ball in that one. And those 3 games, man, they're going to fucking crush. The Chiefs are also going to be desperate to make the playoffs. That game's going to be a big shootout. That Chiefs-Chargers game is currently tied for the second highest point total on the slate week 17. It will go up when we get closer to. You want the Chargers on your playoff rosters. So I've just made the bet. I want as many shares as possible. And when I could backstack him with QJ, it was just such an obvious pick. He peaked at 30% and slowly he's trickled back down to 22. But as you can see, it's almost twice as much as any other player. It's very flat after that. Herbert's the man. Herbert's going to win MVP.
that's, the Dolphins thing is interesting because on the surface, if it was week 8, it's not necessarily a great matchup for a quarterback because it's you get a rushing touchdown or defensive touchdown, then your quarterback has 210 yards and 1 touchdown. But the narrative part, where like we don't want to always buy into narratives. In this case, I do, because this is an FU game for many levels, an FU game, and McDaniel seems like that kind of guy. I know Harbaugh, that kind of guy. And this could be a, 50.50 burger, right? And it's not all going to go to Keaton Mitchell. That's interesting. That's next level shit. And even besides that, we're just talking about the regular season stuff. It's a fair price. It's not quarterback 5. I am about 8% on Herbert. Again, I like to take late quarterbacks.
Those are rookie numbers. Well, you got to pump those up in this bracket. Those are rookie numbers.
I think I'm going to. I take quarterback obviously earlier because I can't do the whole best ball thing of taking 2 late guys, or 3 late guys in redraft. I want to get a top 9 guy in redraft. And that is right I'm going to take a lot of Brock Bowers this year. So that's right at the cusp where I can actually have my lineup essentially full and then still get a elite guy. And that's the name. I think Dak and Herbert are 2 guys that, especially in a 6 for a passing touchdown league, like give me those dudes all day long.
Dak's fine, but you need the stacks for it to hit. Herbert has the rushing upside where you don't necessarily need the stack. And also, I mentioned this to you on our previous stream, Dak has not strung together 2 straight full seasons in like 5 years. So I'm kind of the mindset. I think Dak's going to go down, actually. Obviously, I can't prove it, but, just my intuition, I'm firmly Herbert over Dak. But Dak's fine. I think I only take Dak stacked myself. I don't take him individually in the 7th.
I was referring to redraft where I don't stack in redraft.
Okay.
I'm just fucking taking best quarterback.
If we're in the Eliminator, give me Dak all day. That week 14 bye is perfect. And Eliminator is kind of like redraft a little bit, where you want to start off hot, get a good record going. Maybe you can make some trades and set things up, play the waiver wire with the future in mind. Dak's fine, but I think for the playoffs, it's Herbert all day. So best ball.
I've made a lot of Eliminator teams with the strategy of just trying to get to week 11 to make my $1,000. And I have a lot of week 11 buys and obviously everything after that. And I have a lot of my community members doing the same thing. And I made the joke that like, I'm going to make it to week 11 in one of these. And also somebody else like Derek's going to do it. And we're going to fucking meet up and we're going to have like 5 players that are active. And it's literally a pillow fight, like 50 points wins. And then we actually have a chance to win. So if I get enough people doing this, I have a chance for that week 11 team to actually face another piece of shit week 11 team. Other than that, there's no chance if you have 8 players, you know what I mean? But that's $10 into $1,000 seems very reasonable for a wacky tournament that I don't want to play.
Yeah, if you make it to week 10, you're pretty happy. I mean, you'd love to go all the way, but $1,000 off a $10 entry is pretty nice.
Let me get to a couple supers here. Appreciate you, Jonathan. Jonathan, you're the man. Also, Jonathan's the best race car driver west of the Mississippi. And we have GT saying, who should we draft from the Chargers besides Herb? We're going to get to that, but you like them all. Are you a Trey Harris guy? Because I'm big into Trey Harris because his cost.
Yeah, the cost, you got to be in. There's part of me that worries that Brendan Thompson could be equally as viable for the sake of best ball. Like spike week wise, sometimes I do kind of worry that Trey Harris will just be Josh Palmer 2.0. And like you get some good volume, but like he's great at blocking. I'm not fully sold. You get more than like 5 touchdowns from Trey Harris. That kind of feels a little optimistic even. So that's where like without a touchdown, I'm not sure Trey Harris like gives you 12 plus points, but at cost, totally worth it. And then he's 1 injury away from being a weekly top 2 starter. So it's an offense I like. It's so affordable. Trey Harris, pretty obvious bet.
All right, let's kind of power through. I mean, that was obviously your take was so strong. It was worth the time on Justin Herbert because that was ball knowledge right there. Adam, you know your shit, man. You are, like I said, you are one of the biggest streamers. 10,000 subs for a reason. There's a reason for that.
I do have 10K, but in all honesty, the majority of that is not from live streaming. Up until this year, I would put very little like equity in my subscriber count from the best ball community. It's mostly happened this year.
Well, you're killing it. Real quick, I do owe like 3 beer chugs, so I'm gonna get one out of the way. We do a race here. You'll see it. It's pretty interesting. So I'm gonna race myself. It's kind of like the combine, how they have the guy they race against like DK's 40, and you see the shadow. Mm-hmm. This is that for a chug. So let's do this.
Here you go.
Is it a tie?
Fine wine. Getting
Yeah, I
better.
look like Bert Kreischer in that fucking video. I've lost some weight, but
You don't have the hairy
Yeah.
chest, at least.
oh, that's I'll tell you a little bit about me. That's a bar at 10 p.m. on a Friday night, and I got my shirt off chugging beers. I didn't get arrested, I didn't get kicked out. Obviously, I think people like me there. So, hey yo,
Good to have friends.
it is good to have friends. One more super to get to, and we got to get to your quarterbacks. Mouth here. Do you feel the power drain in NorCal in the NFL season? I'm pretty convinced CMC is the last of the succubi allowed to live because KS made a bloody offering. I made the joke way back before the season that CMC has some kind of voodoo doll where he is just taking the powers, and taking the health of all these players. And it came to fruition last year. He stayed healthy through all those touches. And nobody, even Brock Purdy got hurt, Kittle, you name it. Is it going to happen again? It's already happening. And the thing is, we haven't heard a peep about CMC being hurt or nicked up.
Well, just if this is directed to me, I don't live in NorCal. I live in LA. But have you ever seen the movie The Island?
Of course, love that Scarlett Johansson, baby. She never looked better than that movie.
No, that was like peak ScarJo. I feel like that's what's going on. Where like he has some clone that they just like scrap different ligaments from or some shit. Like, I can't really explain it. It's all or nothing with CMC. If he stays healthy, it's fully worth it. But yeah, so it's just the luck of the draw. Either he gets hurt or he's the best pick on the board.
Yeah, he plays 17 games or he plays 6. It's really wild. You think there'd be some years where he misses 3 like a normal human, a high ankle sprain here and there, but no. And he's also one of those guys that he's not a bitch, right? He plays, he's playing hurt. It's just if he physically can't take the field, then it's a massive injury and he's just out for the year. But he is old, dude. And he was a young rookie. Like I think he's going into his 10th season.
I believe he's
a
29.
Yeah, but he was a 21-year-old rookie. So
it feels like he's been in the league forever. But can he be Derrick Henry? If he can, then stop fading him.
Derrick Henry is not a human, though. That's the difference. Like CMC is at least somewhat human, except for he's got the island thing for sure. He has the clone. He might have 2 clones, and they're running out of body parts for him. Let's get to the rest of your list. So Kyler, Shuck, and Patrick Mahomes. Have you been drafting Mahomes consistently? Like, were you drafting him before the kind of positive reports that we've had recently? I was drafting him almost more before because his price was cheaper. Because I figured he'd be ready week 1.
Yeah. I've never really been out on Mahomes. I was a little worried maybe back in like March or something, like maybe with that week 5 bye, maybe there's a world where he actually misses September and he's there week 6, but he's a gamer. I expect him on the field week 1. The reports are really positive. It seemed like the cheapest price you can get on Mahomes. And even though like there was a stretch where he was not paying off, like I think ADP wise, he's quarterback 11. In his worst seasons, he was never worse than like QB 12. So like I think from a floor standpoint, that's where we're drafting him. But then the upside is top 2. Like until he got hurt last year, his rushing stats made him top 3, top 2 on the season. So I felt like it was a pretty obvious bet. Also, once I got the schedule, I started taking Chiefs even more because I want that bring back. I want that game. I want that week 17 Chiefs-Chargers matchup. So sometimes I just go Herbert and Mahomes and set up the stacks. I love the Kelsey matchup in that. Kelsey's I never take Kelsey, but this year it feels like such a good price. I'm in on the Hall of Famer. But yeah, he's just always been really affordable. So it's been a pretty consistent 12%.
Tyler Shuck is a slappy pick this year that everyone is just, going off the small sample. And
Is he?
I always mention the rushing, the design rushes, 45 design rushers last year is insane. Now we love it, but it's scary because he's a small dude and he had a crazy injury history in college, 6 years in college for a reason, because he never finished his season. And I love the Kellen Moore pairing, right? The plays per game, like it's going to be a very fast-paced offense. Jordan Tyson, like it is, the stars are aligning. I just think that there is a chance that he is bad. And that's an issue. It won't matter. See, it won't matter for fantasy if he's bad. I'm just saying there's a chance he gets benched. There is a chance that he gets benched because he is an old second
disagree.
year. You don't think there's any chance?
No, I do not. Who the fuck is he getting benched for?
The MILF hunter, Zach Wilson.
Shut up. Don't give me that shit. Don't.
All right, Spencer Rattler. Dude, Spencer Rattler he was bad, but he wasn't that bad. The team was bad around him.
They only put in Spencer Rattler to set up their tank and get as high of a draft pick as possible. Had they started Tyler Shuck from week 1, they would have had a much better record. They, I believe, went like 4-2 in his last 6 games. They have a 4th place schedule. It's easy as fuck. Their division is dog shit. And if you look at his last 6 games, he averaged 259 passing yards per game. That's on pace for 4,400. He also averaged 19 fantasy points per game. He didn't have a single game under 17. He didn't have any game over 24. So there is that. It's more of just like a flat, just consistency. But I think for the price, man, he did all that without Shaheed as well. They got rid of Shaheed and then brought in Shuck. Adding Tyson, I think, is huge. I like Tyson a lot. I like Olave. Travis Etienne going to bolster the run game, and then Kamara's looking pretty decent. I think you're sleeping on the Saints a little bit. Shuck
I like Tyler Shuck. I was
value.
actually playing a little devil's advocate with you. I do have a decent amount of Shuck. I think no one is acknowledging that there's a chance Shuck is not good. This is a small sample, and we've seen a lot of guys like Jaden Daniels was pretty bad last year compared to his rookie year, right? And not bench worthy. I'm saying that Tyler Shuck is the same age as Trevor Lawrence right now. Like, that's insane. You
know why he spent so many years in college? Justin Herbert kept him on the bench. He learned from the best.
Fucking love Herbert. It comes back to Herbert. So what is that exposure? It's 13%. Is that what I see here?
Yeah.
That's okay. That's pretty fair. I'm at like 9%. So that's not too far. I'm still a little above, but it's quarterback 18 does seem pretty free.
A lot of the time I'm taking him at a discount in the 11th round, not at his like actual price, but I think he's like one of the best. Like, once he's off the board, there's no one I actually trust at quarterback to give me like consistent usage. So I view him as one of those tier break players, and he's often falling to a nice price that I can afford. I also take a lot of Olave, so that's a decent stack. I have a lot of Juwan Johnson. I like the Kellen Moore offense. I like the bet. Their defense isn't that good, so it's more so price why I take Shuck so much.
So let's talk about Cam Ward. I have quite a bit of Cam Ward, and it's not even because I don't take a lot of Carnell Tate. It's not even a stacking thing. I think people don't realize he has rushing upside. And last year, for whatever reason, he was like actively trying not to run. And as a guy that bet a lot of Cam Ward's rushing props at 4.5 yards, I was watching this very closely, and that's why I don't have any hair, because it was 3rd and 7, and it's like, dude, easy. They weren't respecting it at all because he wasn't doing it. And now you have Brian Daboll, who he actually like makes his quarterbacks run. He's like, just run. And Cam Ward can do it. You saw it in Miami. So the rushing upside is sneaky with Cam Ward. He's a big dude. I feel like he's a guy that should play a lot. He doesn't come off as a guy that's going to get hurt. Where like Shuck, my worry is also a small guy, plays aggressive. I have no worry with Cam Ward's injury. And also, like, there's no way he's getting benched. So I'm in on the Titans. Are you in on the Titans?
Oh, whoops. Sorry. I just pulled up the stream. Let me mute that. Sorry. I like Cam Ward. I think the breakout is a pretty decent bet just because of how dog shit their coaching was last year. And like they couldn't have upgraded the coaching staff or the weapons like any better. Like, they had massive nepotism. They fired their coach mid-season. Callahan was like by far the worst coach in the NFL. And like, even though they didn't have anyone to throw to, they started actually being competitive once he was gone. And, like, Ridley was just so injury riddled all season. He was dog shit. He only had like one good game and then instantly went out for the season. So there was no one to throw to other than rookies.
5th round rookies.
Yeah. Really low draft capital. Nothing impressive. So I think it was just such a terrible circumstance around him. But if you watch them, they moved the ball. They just couldn't score touchdowns. They had a lot of field goals that I believe they were like leading against the Rams right before halftime. And the Rams were like, wait, what the fuck is the score? Let's wake the fuck up and just bury them. But like, I do think Cam Ward has a big chip on his shoulder. I think the year 2 leap can be a big deal. Brian Daboll, I think, would have drafted him had he had the chance, but obviously the Titans didn't let him. So Daboll moves over, and Daboll gets to only focus on offense, whereas when you're a head coach and you like have the offensive mind like down, having to also factor in the entire game plan, that kind of takes away. So I think Daboll's going to be much better. Robert Saleh is going to really help that defense. So the coaching just couldn't have gotten a significant upgrade. Like I thought both of them deserved like legit coaching jobs, and for them to go to Tennessee after coaching in New York, where like the media couldn't be more adversarial, like I think they're going to go under the radar. I'm not picking them to win the division or anything, but like the upgrade is going to be so much better. And now he not only does he have Carnell Tate, who was drafted 4th overall, he also has Wanda Robinson, who's been extremely consistent. I think all the pieces are there where like you just can't assume last year will repeat. And then I just look at his last year in college, 4,300 yards in 13 games at Miami. Like that's hard to do in college. There's very few passers that hit that number. So he was 4th in the Heisman voting behind Hunter, Genti, and I'm forgetting who number 3 was, but like by far the best quarterback. And if he had gone the year before in like the draft, I think he would have been better than Bo Nix. I think he would have gone over Michael Penix and Bo Nix. So I see the path, and the price is pretty nice. So there's not that many upside swings after Shuck, like I mentioned. Ward is probably my favorite.
Yeah, I'm in on Ward for sure. Let's go to the running back spot here because this gets juicy. Tank Bigsby, a guy I'm in on Barkley and Bigsby, and I don't take them in the same team in best ball.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons I'm going to love Barkley this year for redraft is I don't like handcuffing my own players. I like to handcuff other people's players. But when I know a guy is as efficient and fits the system and just looked awesome last year, yeah, he's allergic to catching the ball. We all know this, but I feel like he'd be a top 14 running back if Barkley went down. There's no worry. It's not like the Braylon Allen situation with the Jets. Like we know that Tank Bigsby's a guy. Will Shipley probably play some passing downs, but I love this. And then in best ball, it's like the blow up potential games where you're going to have those 9-10 touches. And this is a tournament winner. This could be in the 14th round. Get a guy that is going to go bonkers if something happens to Barkley, and Barkley's not a young man. So is that kind of your thinking?
Yeah, I have no fear on Will Shipley. It felt pretty obvious that Bigsby completely beat him out for the backup job. And I look at, I believe it was week 16. Yeah. Or no, it was week 15. Week 15. Tank Bigsby had 17 carries for 57 yards. Like that's the type of role I expect for him if Saquon goes down. Maybe more yards expected, but like around 16 to 20 carries. And maybe only like 1 reception, but it's still the Eagles offense. It's a team I want to bet on. And the offensive line is just why I'm so confident in it. Where like, if he does get the opportunity, he is, like you said, a lock in your lineup top 15 running back. The volume's there. The offense is one I want to bet on. And like he ran for, I believe 5.7 yards per carry last season. Like he was extremely efficient. And I don't do a ton of college football scouting. Like I don't have the time to watch college football. So in terms of like prospect grades and stuff, sometimes I just like to trust the people who are paid to do that and their decision making. And I like to trust there's like a tier of GMs and coaches that I just wholeheartedly just trust without a doubt. And Howie Roseman is at the top of that list in terms of GMs. And I did like Tank Bigsby as a college prospect. He at Auburn, he looked kind of decent. He was not very good for the Jags. Not surprised they moved off. But for Howie Roseman to still have some confidence, I imagine their scouting department liked him out of college. So they traded for him. I don't think Howie Roseman makes bad choices. So I want to believe in that. That's why I like Dontavian Wicks a little bit. I just trust Howie Roseman. He wouldn't trade a draft pick that he knows he would hit on. So I really like that as just like a confidence bet. And then when you look at Saquon, like not only has he missed a bunch of time in the past, but like coming off 2 straight seasons with massive workloads at age 29, it's just like Christian McCaffrey. He's in the second round. He feels like the best bet to actually go down. And vis-a-vis like other handcuffs, like we take Keaton Mitchell 135. If you told me Hampton went down and Saquon went down, I would much rather have Tank Bigsby. So I think he's always been mispriced. I've peaked at like 36% on Bigsby. I take him all the time. I think he's always been correct. And this might mean nothing, but they gave him a number 8, a single-digit number this year, and he's in a contract season. You don't usually give single digits to like just backups that are completely irrelevant. It's not that big of a deal, but I think it is a little something in terms of like boosting his ego and aura just a little bit. Like they might have a plan for him. And if you look at camp reports, he's actually taking a decent amount of reps with the first team. They're actually mixing him in and want to maybe limit Saquon's rushing workload a little bit, use him as more of a pass catcher on third down. And it sounds like Bixby will not just strictly be the handcuff. There's actually a chance he has some weekly standalone value. But touchdowns,
and that'll help Saquon too, right? Like Saquon gets the third down. That's what he was missing recently, right? And they weren't throwing the ball either a lot, but like they got to get back to the run game. They have to. Like that's what makes this passing game go. They got away from it last year. They're like, guess what? We won the Super Bowl. We're going to show you Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback. That's not Jalen Hurts' game. Jalen Hurts is an on-time passer that needs the threat of the run. They didn't have that last year. It was disgusting watching that film. Pachulo, we all made jokes about it last year. It was literally way worse than I thought. And that is saying something, brother. It was such a mess there. And Eagles fans, I can't believe they didn't murder him. Like the Eagles fans are insane. They beat up anyone and they didn't beat up this dude just to get him out of the sidelines.
Yeah, I trust the Eagles, but it's an offense that also like the last few seasons as I've like watched them and done rankings, for whatever reason, they usually kind of miss some time at the end of the season. Like Hurts has been off the field like weeks 17, 18 a couple times. It's just a team that mixes things up and finds a way. So for the price, he's my favorite backup, and in terms of contingent upside, it's just a lock to pay off, I think.
Another guy you love, Katron Allen, ambiguous backfield, not great draft capital, but he does something no one else in this backfield does. So he's the hammer. Are you confident in this role? I mean, the exposure says you are, or is this more of a deep shot? Because this is a deep shot. If it pays off, it's gonna be awesome.
If it wasn't such a cheap ADP, then I don't think I would have him anywhere close to this. And based on the last week of camp, I'm kind of regretting the 22% a little bit, but it's so affordable, right? Like now he goes in the last round, if not undrafted. But I had a subscriber on my 10-hour live stream. He's in the subscriber league. He was my 25th subscriber, and we chat from time to time. He's huge on like college football and prospects. His name is Jonathan. He doesn't have a YouTube channel or anything, but he lobbied so hard for Katron and did sell me. And I've just been of the stance where like, this is such an ambiguous backfield. I don't know what's going to happen. Just give me the cheapest guy. And whether he starts off the season with the job or an injury paves the way, I want to invest in the Commanders, and I've just been kind of off on JCM for the most part. So last year, I loved Bill in round 18. In May, I was taking Bill round 18 when he was undrafted, and then he got steamed up the board, and I didn't buy in at
so much, dude.
And so it's kind of led me to kind of just fade Bill a little bit mentally, and then once a friend of mine really, really sold me on Katron, I was like, all right, well, this is not just going to be your guy. This is also going to be my guy. And like that kind of maybe led me to take him this much. But I still think the path is there. I worry about the O-line, but like Rashad is just not good enough to be the workhorse. And then JCM had every opportunity last season to steal the job, and he couldn't. So like they don't want to spend money. They drafted Bill in the 7th. And I think as long as they don't feel confident about who they have, they're just going to move one round up every season in the draft and just be like, all right, at some point, if whoever's above you doesn't steal the job, like we're just going to give you your chance and prove us wrong. So I think at some point he will get on the field. I think he's a good goal line back. That's where I think he offers the most value on the goal line. I don't think Rashad can really steal his thunder there. And other than like pass protection, nothing else is really keeping Rashad on the field. So if JCM is as bad as I thought, then I do see the fat man taking the bulk of the work when touchdowns are up for grabs. Like I view him as Chris Rodriguez, basically. Like that's the theory. And if you give me 60 yards and a touchdown, round 18, that's pretty nice. So
these guys are bad. Like there's no goal line back of this team besides Katron. There isn't. I mean, Rashad White is not. He is below average. And JCM, I always call him a pipsqueak around here because he is. He had 8 touchdowns last year. I don't know how that happened. It was a lot of, 12-yard touchdowns. He didn't have a lot of goal line stuff, and he had a couple long runs. But he is small. I see this as a Sean Tucker situation from last year. Worst case scenario, a Sean Tucker situation where the snap share is low, but it's the carries you want. And then he builds on that, right? Then he builds on getting a 30% snap share, 40% snap share. And if Rachaad White continues to do what he did last year and the last couple of years being inefficient, and JCM is just not getting it done, now you got yourself officially a 3-way committee, which is gross for the other 2 guys because where you're taking them. This isn't gross for Katron because it's your last running back.
Yeah, no. If the price wasn't so cheap, it would not be this high. That's for sure. But I want the Commanders' backfield. So,
what do you think about Nick Singleton, real quick? Because there's they played both played at Penn State.
Yeah.
I'm a Nick Singleton fan. That's also in a kind of an ambiguous backfield. Tony Pollard is getting to be dusty. Tyjae Spears can never stay healthy, and definitely not an early down guy. I see the path for Katron having carries early in the season over Nick Singleton. I think Nick Singleton has a chance to actually, whether that's a Tony Pollard trade midseason, whether that's a Tyjae Spears injury, of really exploding more, because that's also the archetype of player he is. He is a elite pass catcher that's 225 pounds. Like, this is a guy that has real juice, but he's a little more raw than Katron Allen.
I think Singleton's a great dynasty play, and I think his ceiling is as the number 2. But I think the way to play Tennessee is through Tony Pollard this year. And I just don't really see, until Pollard gets hurt, I just don't see enough volume for Singleton. But I do like him a little bit. His injury concern is a major red flag. So that paired with Tyjae, that's what led me to just trust Tony Pollard in Tennessee. But I don't think Tony Pollard's going to stay there long term. And neither is Tyjae. I don't think they really believe in him. So I think next year, Nick Singleton's going to crush. But I think this season, I'm just not really seeing the convincing path where he's just getting enough touches to be super relevant without that Tony Pollard injury. But I don't think he'll catch as many passes as Tyjae, even if that happens. And the O-line in Tennessee isn't that exciting. So I don't really want to bet on the Titans backup too much. But I see the dynasty value for sure.
All right, give me the hot take on a Marion Hampton. Give it to us. Some more Chargers love. This is pretty high. I know you're really high. I am not a Hampton bro. I'm going to like him more. I like him more in PPR. So I don't have him a lot of underdog because I think his true value his true upside is 60 to 65 receptions, which I take him more in DraftKings. I'll probably take him more in redraft. But in underdog, I want Derrick Henry over Hampton. I know it seems weird and gross. I know I'm getting 13 touchdowns from Derrick Henry. I know I'm getting 1,500 yards. I know I'm getting, it should, especially now with no Harbaugh, he was taken off the field for 3 drives in a row. That should never happen with Derrick Henry. I'm not worried about any snap share stuff, and I love the Ravens offense. My concern with Hampton is Kamani Vidal is still there. I know he's not the 2. It's going to be Keaton Mitchell, but he is a great pass protector. He earned the right to have possibly a role this year. So you have him in the mix. Keaton Mitchell is a McDaniel type of player, right? He's going to be on the field for some big plays. What is the snap share you're projecting? Let's just start here. What's the snap share that Marion Hampton needs to have to hit his ADP?
I would say 75%, 70 to 75. And I think he's going to get it. I think he will. I don't believe in Keaton Mitchell enough to fear the workload coming down. Keaton Mitchell's going to have some blow up games. We drafted him on that team. I think 4 or 5 house calls is a reasonable expectation, but without the house call, I just don't think he's going to get enough to be a problem. I would project 6 to 8 carries for Keaton Mitchell, and 8 kind of feels like the best case scenario. So I don't want to bet on an injury. I want to bet on my Chargers. And from a organizational standpoint, they usually don't miss at running back. They drafted LaDainian Tomlinson. I'm not going to say he's LT, but you look at Melvin Gordon, he was very productive from a touchdown standpoint. And when you look at Hampton's skill set, the last time we saw him in the regular season was against the Houston Texans, week 17, where he caught all 8 receptions. He was 8 for 8 in the passing game. He also had a 7-target game week 3, 5 targets week 4, and then the week he went down against the Commanders in the third quarter, he also had 6 targets, 6 catches. His catch rate was insane. 32 catches on 34 targets. So I think he's a reasonable 80 target, 75 target type of player. And then when you also look at Mike McDaniel's system, I think he just kind of fits into the Devon Achane role. And so I want to bet on the system. When you look at Jim Harbaugh's track record, the last season he coached for Michigan, Blake Corum had 27 rushing touchdowns. So when they're in, like, if my Herbert argument for MVP doesn't hit, it's because Hampton is the truth. It's because Hampton delivers that much. But I think Hampton's going to be such a big pass catcher that he's kind of Austin Eckler 2.0, but he's 220 pounds, runs a 4.4 40, and like has every fucking metric that you fucking want. Like the Chargers took him in the first round, and it felt like a steal when they got him. I believe it was like 22 overall, and I remember being shocked that he was still on the board. People were projecting him to go like top 12 last year, or as his rookie season. I guess that was last year. So I see Hampton as a very underrated Herbert stacking piece. And if I told you were drafting Austin Eckler, his peak season with Herbert, I believe it was 2021. Austin Eckler was a top 5 pick. So
15 touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
Like and that's from Austin Eckler, who is tiny.
And I think so. Hampton has 20 touchdown. Like he legitimately has a 20 touchdown ceiling. If you told me he was being drafted top 5 next year, I wouldn't be shocked. So it is a lot of projection. And I do worry a little bit about if Keaton has a house call in the third quarter and Hampton hasn't scored yet and they're, winning big, maybe Hampton doesn't pay off with a touchdown. Maybe they do mix in Keaton a little bit extra, but like, I don't think that's going to happen too often. And then even off of his injury, he still closed out the year with back-to-back 16-point games. Maybe it's the bias, but I want to have Chargers pieces. I want to set up the stack with Herbert. And one of my favorite ways to go about it is actually to take like Hampton at pick 9 or 10 and then get Henry in the second round. Henry's at the, I got 14% Henry. I love both of them. They're my 2 most drafted players in the second round. So I like that a lot. And I'm not afraid to get weird with Hampton. So I pull him up at pick 5 sometimes just to have fun.
See, this running back group is a big bucket to me, right? I can go starting from, let's leave JT out of the conversation, because I think JT is a tier above these guys based on he has the entire offense there in Indy. Mm-hmm. But Saquon, Hampton, I know a lot of people in full PPR, you could put Achane in that conversation. Kenneth Walker, who, talk about bums behind him. As much as I like Emmett Johnson, he's a rookie. Like, he should get all the work he can handle. Now, there's injury questions. I understand that. But tied to Mahomes and Andy Reid, like, they've never had a talent like Kenneth Walker, right? It's been like the last time he's had a talent that was even decent was literally Brian Westbrook, a guy that could actually do it all.
Jamal
Andy
Charles. You did have Jamal Charles for a little bit.
That was back end, like a year?
I think it was like 3 or 4 seasons, possibly.
No shit.
I think so, because Andy Reid went there in 2013. I don't think Jamal Charles left until like 2015, maybe. So
God,
I think
wild. He's been there that fucking long.
Yeah, I think he had 3 seasons with Jamal Charles. But
I'm digging Walker though, and I could make an argument for all these guys. Is the point? Like, I'm not worried about Walker's snap share at all. Well, like, there is just no way he's playing less than 75% of the snaps.
I like Walker a lot as well. I just don't have him over Hampton. I'm at 12% Walker. So like he just got cropped out. He just didn't make the top of the list, but 12% Walker. I like him a lot too.
So you're firmly on Hampton, like where you have him at the top of that tier is what I'm hearing. I'm fine with all the guys, honestly. I think Achane is the only one, especially in half PPR. I want to fade him. Just like, what is Achane's touchdown ceiling? It's 8, 10, maybe. I mean, how many touchdowns are the Dolphins going to score? He's got to score from like 40 yards out.
Yeah, no, I don't have a full fade on Achane, but I'm definitely taking him last among those second round running backs. I think a lot of the value that he offers is because of Mike McDaniel in the system. And so by like fading Achane, I'm just like, like CMC's clone. I've moved it over to Hampton.
Yeah,
that's the.
Let's get to a couple other names here. Process. So Cam Scatterbo is I'm prepping for a segment next week of just identifying league winning running backs, and I'm taking out the first 2-round guys. I want to go for the 3, 4, 5th round, third, fourth, and 5th round running backs. And there's some check marks here: pass catching, full workload, full goal line role, and Cam Scatterbo checks all those boxes. The one thing he doesn't check is like explosive runs, but the volume should even that out. It's the injury question, right? And he looks good. I mean, and Jackson Dart loves him. Tyron Tracy's been pretty good, but I think this is Cam Scatterbo's team, and this is an upside play for you, right? Like, it's a nice floor play too, but this is shooting for the moon.
Yeah. In all due respect, I got to shout out Who Hames, who's in the chat, who fully sold me on just looking deeper into Cam Scatterbo, and him and Meg Schaup, the two of them are like such Cam Scatterbo bulls, and talking to them, it's so fun to watch him, man. Like, it's a contagious energy. And like, I've said this a few times when like people question the Scatterbo thing, where like, you don't want him in 5 years from now, right? Like, you probably don't want him in Dynasty. No. And I think that's why he fell to the 4th round. I think prospect wise, and just like day one, ready to compete nature of this prospect, he did not deserve to be a 4th round pick. That game in the college football playoffs against Texas was one of the most electric performances you could have imagined.
Top 5, dude. That was a perfect football game.
Insane. The dude is stellar, can catch 80 receptions if he has to. And once I was like, okay, maybe I need to rethink this, I looked back and just looked at the game log. Like, matchup is always important, context, there is that, but just what are the stats? And those 5 full starts for Cam Scatterbo, I'm trying to find it, but off the top of my head, he was averaging 23 total touches.
Yep.
3.8 of those were catches. So all the PPR production you can hope for. He averaged just shy of 100 yards per game. It was 96.7. And then he also had a touchdown in basically every single one of those games. If he didn't, there's a game with, I believe, 3 touchdowns that compensates. Yeah.
That was the Eagles game where they just shit all over the Eagles, man. Thursday Night Football. Love that game.
He was so productive. And like, when you look at the Giants roster, like, they have Neighbors, who up until this point was a huge risk factor. Like, how healthy can he be? They have Jackson Dart. And then who the fuck else do they have? Like, all due respect to Tyron
Isaiah
Tracy,
Likely is their number 2, essentially their number 2.
And Isaiah Likely didn't have a single game with over 10 fantasy points last year. Like,
nope.
Cam Scatterbo is their offense, essentially. And I expect a Harbaugh team, like John Harbaugh, I think will kind of take a playbook out from his brother a little bit. If he doesn't have the pass catchers, like, lean on the run. They have some interesting defensive pieces. I think they could actually shock some people on defense. I told you at the end of the stream, I have them winning the division. So I want to buy in, and like, we're playing best ball. We're shooting for first place. I don't give a fuck about min cashing. I made the final in the Badge Bros Brawl last year, but I had Gibbs, Genty, James Cook, and Travion with Swift. Swift was my RB1 at 20 points, and my RB2 was Genty with 8.3. They shit the bed. I don't want to min cash. I want to shoot for the ceiling, and I want to bet that Scatterbo just stays healthy and gives me this 20 touch floor. I don't see any other weapon threatening him, and I think Tyron Tracy will maybe run some routes, but I don't think it's a problem. It's only injury risk. So 4th place is the same as 12th. I want to shoot for first. So give me Scatterbo and let me have some fun.
Ricky Bob, it is fun to own Scatterbo as well, but I think we also forgot to mention the game he got hurt. I think that was that the Broncos game. He had, I think, 11 PPR points in like 10 minutes of action. He scored a touchdown that first drive. He had like 2 catches and 7 touches in one drive. That was, he was ascending. He was actually ascending.
I have it right here. He had 3 carries for 12 yards, 2 targets, 1 catch. It was an 18-yard touchdown. 9.5
there you go.
PPR points.
1 drive.
Yeah. That's all I need.
It was like, you were actually happy. You're kind of happy with it. Like, it's not a great fantasy game, but when you get that's on 1 drive. That's what Harold Fannin did in the fantasy championship. He fucking re-aggravated that injury, but he had a 40-yard touchdown. I was like, I'm cool with 11 points. It sucked because he would have scored 24 points. Scatterbo would have scored 25 or 30 in that game. But that's the kind of upside we're talking about. And we have to acknowledge the downside, though. Like, he will probably miss a game for a concussion this year. Like, it's just, if you were going to bet on any player missing a game of concussion, it's going to be him. But that's fine. The dude's going to play through injuries as long as his leg is attached. I have a feeling he wanted to come back in that game.
No,
that he got
100%.
hurt in. If they let him, dude, he would have suited up, man. And
100%.
I love players like that, right? You don't have to worry about a guy, being a bitch and being like, oh man, I need to take 2 games off and nurse this fucking hamstring. Like,
yeah, I think, like, fast forward 3 years from now, I think he's probably like a 2nd-round pick that like completely craters because the injuries just add up and he totally burns you. But if you just look at those 5 final games with him, I can talk myself into him being better than Breece Hall and Jeremiah Love. And if I'm getting a 2-round discount on that, I'm taking it all day.
Speaking of Jeremiah Love, he's not on your exposures. I just want to talk about, all the reports and kind of get your perspective, because I'm loving the dip, because I don't believe any of this shit. Like, first 5 weeks is probably gonna be a little rough, 12 touches, maybe, whatever. But he's the kind of guy that can do more with those 12 touches, and maybe some late season concern with them possibly shutting him down. Teams don't do that. Teams play to win, especially dumb teams like the Cardinals. Are you worried about the Algier? And then they're talking about Connor a couple days ago. It's a weird situation in terms of the noise, but are you worried now that he's falling to like pick 31? We're almost getting closer to the 3-4 turn than the 2-3 turn. I am digging it.
I rank him around like pick 28, 29. And like, until his ADP is there, if I have like the 1 or 2 pick, let's say I have Gibbs or Bijan. Let's say I start off with that elite running back. I am hammering the receiver strategy at the 2-3 turn. I do not trust Jeremiah Love to advance. And I think what you pass up in terms of those receiver points is just so valuable that it's not worth it to me. But I love his playoff schedule. I also, as much as I am kind of a believer that the Cardinals have the number 1 pick and they're basically on the clock for next year's draft, I also don't want to full fade a Sean McVay coach disciple. Like that coaching tree is one that I ultimately don't want to be completely out on. And even though they don't have the quarterback situation figured out, their offensive line isn't like the most impressive. They had no one at running back last year. They had Michael Carter as their top guy.
DeMarcado. It was rough, dude. That was their 5th string running back.
Yeah, and they were completely worthless. They were literally just unowned by like week 10 in every single format. It was like, yeah, everyone realizes you can't start any Cardinals. So when you look at what they chose to do in the offseason once this new regime came in, they signed Algier to $8 million guaranteed. Like, we hype up Chris Rodriguez for $6 million, like Algier at one point, like until they drafted Jeremiah Love, was a 9th-round pick. If I recall, like he was going to pick 190, like people were all in on Algier. And then it was just like, oh shit, you can't draft him. So I think he's relevant. I think though, they're going to move off of James Conner. I believe we drafted him with the assumption that he gets traded.
Yes.
I think if he requested to be cut, they would grant it. And to draft Jeremiah Love at 3rd overall, one, it tips their hand, says like, this is clearly the direction we want to go. But it also maybe just speaks to how talented the draft class was, where like nobody else even came close. But in college, he was a committee back. He was not a workhorse. He's that home run hitter. So I think from just like a spike week standpoint, I get the logic, but if it's not best ball, I'm not really interested. I'm trying to acquire Jeremiah Love in a trade mid-season, in my managed league. But I don't think he's going to start off hot. I think it's going to be pretty brutal all season for betting on touchdowns. And Algier will vulture him a few times. And then if they don't trade Connor, then it's just like, what's the deal there? But he's too talented to full fade. However, I want him closer to pick 30. And if anything, I could see Scatabo outperform him. So I don't think he's the best pick in the 3rd round. I think if it wasn't best ball and we didn't like just weight rookies this high, like, we drafted CEH at pick 6 his rookie season. You know what I mean? Like, We've learned
those
were
the days. Those were the days. I didn't take him anywhere because I thought that was insane. But like,
yeah, no,
people were. That was remember the 1 week spike? It was like he was 13, 14, he was 15. And then some camp reports came out. And it's like, oh, he's the workhorse. And then week 1, he actually had that like game clinching run, like a 50-yard touchdown. And that made his day. And then he never had like any other RB1 weeks. And then his career's over. He's gone.
I remember this pretty vividly, actually. Week 1, maybe it was week 2. I'm pretty sure it was week 1, but it was like down the stretch of the game. It was like a game-winning drive potentially, and they were like in the red zone, and they handed it off to CEH, and the O-line was like so bad, he was like instantly stuffed, and he hit the hardest spin move. It was really impressive. He dodged like a full speed tackle with like a 360 spin move, but it was like into another 300-pound defensive lineman. He just like instantly got trucked.
He looked so small out there. Like, it was crazy how small this dude. He almost looked like Darren Sproles. You know what I mean? And Darren Sproles was clearly on the field because he was the most electric athlete out there. This dude was not Darren Sproles.
It was a true like welcome to the NFL moment. And I worry that Love could maybe have something like that, but I don't think it's going to be that bad. And so like, price wise, we just have to spend a lot, but I wish it was less of a committee for Jeremiah Love. I love the talent, but I want to bet on the Cardinals next year, not this year.
Real quick, I got the super chat, but speaking on the Cardinals, this is interesting. So Jacoby Brissett played 12 games last year. I know the passing rate was like beyond unsustainable. It was the craziest thing we've ever seen. Where do you think, it's kind of a trivia question for you, where do you think Jacoby Brissett ranks in points per game last season? I know it was only 12 games, but where do you think? And let's call it it's a 6 for a passing touchdown league.
I've looked this up. I'm going to tell you my answer before I scroll down to check it, but I actually have it listed on one of my tabs that I opened for this stream. It's much higher than you would think. I believe it's like 8, maybe. Yeah,
it's 7. I think it's 7.
Okay.
Tied for 7 with Trevor Lawrence. Think about that for a second. Like, and the issue with Brissett and Best Ball is I'll say this: their schedule in the playoffs is insane. It's like Raiders, Jets, and Saints, I think, which is super nice. But he might not be playing those games is the problem.
I don't think
so. But literally though, like quarterback 7, he doesn't even have to. He can get you there. Like, and it's not going to be like that this year. But to say that the guy with now adding Jeremiah Love and the same pass catchers, a healthy Marvin Harrison, Michael Wilson, who broke out, still Trey McBride, quarterback 7 is getting drafted to quarterback 30 is insane. I got to get your take on this one, though. So thank you, Dakota. Let's get Adam's take on MVP and Jonathan's trade in our Dynasty League. So we did a Dynasty Startup League with all the community members, and Jonathan has made about 7 trades since the draft ended. We have had over 50 trades in this draft, like counting the actual – we did a slow draft, so it was pick swapping. So this is for Jeremiah Love. So he received Elijah Surratt, Omar Cooper, Jeremiah Love, and a 2027 second. He gave up Jonah Coleman, Stowers, and 3 firsts. He had 3 2027 firsts. So they're all 2027 firsts because he acquired all these. So 3 2027 firsts, Coleman and Stowers for Surratt, Cooper, Jeremiah Love, and a second rounder. So essentially 3 firsts in 2000. What do you think about that? That's a lot.
I'd want the 3 firsts.
Is Jonathan, are you in here? If you're in here, you're betting a lot on Jeremiah Love but Surratt and Omar Cooper, okay, especially Omar Cooper, first round receiver, but he's on the Jets. And Jonah Coleman is no slouch. And Stowers is, in my mind, I liked him more than Sadiq for long term as a receiving tight end. Love his skill set. It's a lot. It's a fuckload.
I will say I don't play Dynasty. So my mentality is win now and this year and short term.
Same.
So I don't think you get enough this season to really be worth the first round draft capital you're giving up. You would assume those are late round firsts, but I think you might be disappointed there. So the mystery box of the first round picks paired with still some decent rookies, not the worst rookies I've ever heard of. I think I would have stood pat with my draft picks.
One of them is my first rounder that I traded, and it's a deep league where you can start 5 receivers. We have Mike Evans as our 5, Terry McLaurin's our 4. We have a stack team, Gibbs and K9. The other one's Derek's, who is probably a top 3 team. So they're almost second rounders. I'll say this, at least 2 of them. And the other one's his own, which is kind of concerning. That is the issue, because if his team tanks, now he's giving away a potential top 4 pick. But I appreciate the hustle, man, because it's all those trades, and go get your guys, man. Go get your guys.
when you have conviction, trust it, I guess.
Mouth giving out a membership. I do want to real quick shout out Downtown Sports. Guys, if you're in here and you want a all-encompassing show twice a week, it's on every platform. Guys, September 1st, Ian Eagle's coming on the program. He comes on there at least twice a year. So join our community. If you want to join our community, we're doing a contest for the best question. And we're going to vote on it. He's going to ask Ian Eagle live on air and drop your name for that. Let's get to your wide receivers real quick. But I do want to shout out to all the Patreon members in here, all my guys supporting me through the off season in the slow time. You guys are awesome, man. In here every single night with me for 4 hours most times. Like, hats off to you guys. You make coming to work doing this fucking fun, and always have a smile on my face. So appreciate everybody. If anyone's interested in joining the community, links in the description. Go to the website, professionalfanatics.com. It's $5 a month to get in the Discord. And then we offer a lot. I am on there 24/7, guys, essentially helping you guys with any questions you have. Anything I can't get to here, we get to in the Discord. So let's get to your wide receivers. We're talking real ball here, so it's hard to just yes or no answers, and I appreciate that. Like, there's a lot of these conversations need to happen,
Honestly, I love this. Like, as much as you want to give the drafts and stuff, like these are conversations worth like delving into, because like if I put all this money down, I better be able to fucking justify it, right? Like I better have a take that can find a justification for it. But yeah, as Huhames is saying, isn't it strange that I have Herbert correlated this much?
We love these shows, and I have 4 other co-hosts, and I love drafting best ball as well. Usually 4 times a week we have shows like this, and then after that I stay on for 2 hours and draft best ball, because we can have the conversations with the draft, but like deep diving like this, we're learning too. Sometimes we learn, like I'll say something, I'm like, that actually doesn't make sense, or you'll say something, or any of the co-hosts, and like we could. It's also a month before the season. We have time to change our opinions on some of these players if the more information we have, right? So I'm going to get to your question, Jonathan. Give me a second. Let me get to Trey Harris, your guy, Trey Harris. So a lot of correlation here. This is Chargers, man. And I love the conviction. And I don't see Ladd McConkey. I see Ladd McConkey down there.
No,
about
he's
12%.
He's there.
I'm not a Ladd guy because of the cost. And it's because it's half PPR. In full PPR, in the 3rd round, I am going to be taking some Ladd McConkey. I've just never been a giant fan of his game as an alpha. But, the role should be great with McDaniels. But Trey Harris and Quentin Johnson, the price is right. Touchdown for QJ. And Trey Harris with probably a lot of 4 or 5 point games. But all you need is like 3 bangers from him to pay off.
It's mostly a cost bet. And I will say the majority of these QJ shares were at a much, much cheaper price. I have it on the solver, actually. I'm going to look it up because I don't pay for the solver. But their free best ball tool gives you your average pick as well. And I'm going to find it because I kind of stopped. I believe my average pick on QJ is like 80, 85 or something. Like it's closer to 90 than where he currently goes. But the backstacks are why Trey Harris and QJ are higher. The price on Ladd is a little concerning. You pay a tax on all the Chargers a little bit because of Mike McDaniel. And Ladd really didn't pay off last season, so I get the hesitation, but he will see the most targets. Quentin Johnston, though, for 2 straight years has more touchdowns than him. He has 2 straight years with 8 touchdowns. If that happens again, he will 100% be worth it in best ball. And like, in redraft, it's not as fun, but like he only had 4 drops last season. That's probably less than people imagine. It feels like he has at least 12 or 20, and he's been getting better. So I want to believe that he can develop, but if he doesn't, Trey Harris is waiting in the wings. And I've never believed that they were going to bring back Keenan Allen. I was never afraid of another signing. And after every checkpoint of free agency, the draft, and you still have to survive August in training camp, but like the only addition they made was Brennan Thompson in the 5th round, who's just like a go route guy and like nothing else, or at least would be shocking if he's used more than that his rookie season. So I want to just get the stacks as much, but I'm not worried about it. Like, if anything, right now I'm more willing to pull up Ladd because I can't backstack QJ the same way I did. Like now I don't want to take QJ than Herbert. That's not as fun. I do it sometimes, but just because I don't like the 6-7 turn. But at that point, if I have so much Quentin Johnson and less people can even get Herbert stacked in the first place, then the lad becomes more valuable up top. Do you remember that game against the Texans in the playoffs, his rookie season? Fucking
Yeah.
I believe it was like 170 yards and a touchdown, like insane upside, but like inconsistent volume last year. But like in general, there's going to be at least like 10 games where he does get 10 targets, I think.
The Quentin Johnson thing, this is an example why I'm in on Marvin Harrison, right? Like Quentin Johnson's rookie year, like Marvin Harrison was at least decent, especially the numbers were decent. Quentin Johnson was downright awful, like almost unplayable, not for fantasy, but real life. And Quentin Johnson is actually turning into a damn good receiver. Like he's a niche receiver, right? He's found his role, perfect pairing with Justin Herbert, who has the strongest arm in the NFL. Him and Josh Allen are 1A, 1B for me in terms of just having a cannon, and it just works. It works. Touchdowns are what we're looking for. So I'm in here. Matthew Golden. We got to talk about Matthew Golden. And real quick, Jonathan does still have 227 first. He had 5 going into that trade, which is insane to acquire 5. And he still has a decent team.
I would have only given up 2 firsts, not 3. But
there you go. The take from Adam himself.
If that's how you get the deal done, that's what it takes. Sometimes you have to pay up.
So Matthew Golden, a guy, I like to break it down like this. I want to take Christian Watson and redraft. I don't love Christian Watson in best ball just because, again, we're not always factoring in injuries, but that's a thing. I can replace him in redraft. I can't replace him in best ball. Jaden Reed is a guy I'm not drafting, right? I'm still drafting 10, 12, 14% Christian Watson. I'm drafting a lot of Matthew Golden, and Jaden Reed is like 4% for me because I want the cheapest guy. I think Matthew Golden, if I had to bet right now who's playing in 2 wide receiver sets, it's definitely Christian Watson, and it's going to be Matthew Golden for a million reasons, but it's the archetype. The Packers have this weird thing where they refuse to play smaller dudes in 12 personnel. And I don't think that's going to change. Jaden Reed, they view him as, he might actually play a lot in the backfield just based on the lack of depth there, but that doesn't affect Matthew Golden. Matthew Golden's going to be like an 80% snap share player, and it's going to be a bumpy ride. I don't want him in redraft because he's a kind of a MVS, right? How MVS would have those big ass weeks and then he goes 1 for 21. That's going to be Matthew Golden this year. But the price point, ADP 112, for a guy that should have, 4 or 5 deep touchdowns and also just get a decent amount of targets. I'm in on this offense. Consolidated target share tree for sure. And I think Tucker Kraft coming back from the injury will take some time to kind of get back to where he was. And I want to buy in on a team that's going to have definitely a worse defense. Jordan Love's never put it all together. There is a chance that Jordan Love, and he's been really streaky in his career, right? He has 3 games where it's like 10 touchdowns, 1 pick. Then he comes back with like 3 shitters, 3 awful games. And if he could put it together, this is the pairing. This is the price point. This is best ball goodness.
Yeah, the Packers are very unique, and like unique is really the only word for it. There's no other team like the Green Bay Packers, like in terms of the city they play in, what it means to like the culture. The
fans owning the team, it's just everything is just weird.
And they don't really operate the way anyone else would. And every draft pick is always for the future, not necessarily for like this season, but like they never take someone at receiver in the first. That's so against character, paired with moving off of Dontavian Wicks and Romeo Doubs.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at Jaden Reed last season, like his ADP right now is hinging off of 2 years ago. Jaden Reed barely had a game over 8 points last season, and he missed like 10 of them. He was supposed to be only out for like 4 games. They didn't put him on the PUP list or the IR.
Yeah, he came back week 8, and it was like, what are you doing? Like it was week 4, like he's coming back. Nope. Was week 8, week 9?
He was supposed to be back well before their bye week, and it wasn't until after that. He only played, I believe, 4 games to close out the season. So it was super late in the year when it should have been much earlier. So I don't think they want to risk that again. And he's also like a huge like jet sweep type of guy. But when you look at the Packers receiving game log, other than Dobbs, like it's hard to find weeks where even Christian Watson gets more than 6 targets. Like it's just not a heavy volume type of standpoint. Like there's no alpha. So from that perspective, the cheapest one is usually a little extra valuable by comparison, just because of price. That's the nature of this game. I care more about the ADP than necessarily the player sometimes. But I want to believe that the Packers, who historically, when was the last time they missed on a receiver in the draft? Like, can you name one in like 30 years? Like, going back to Donald Driver, is there a single Packer that they've drafted and hasn't worked out? And then you said this earlier, but I say this on the channel all the time. If you look at Devontae Adams' rookie season, you would never project a Hall of Famer.
It was 2 years. 2 years. The first year was really bad. It was 2 years. You know who? I haven't answered your question. It was T. Higgins, because they passed on him to take Jordan Love. That was the one they missed on because they didn't take him. Literally. That was why Aaron Rodgers was so pissed.
Well, they wanted to move off of Rodgers. They wanted to, with the 3-year gap from drafting Jordan Love to him starting, they're not afraid to let it bake. So, like, I might be a year early on Matthew Golden, but if they didn't get rid of Dobbs, then I would be a little worried about that. But the reports are that he's going to be in 12 personnel above Jaden Reed. And with all the injury concern as well, like you brought it up, I think Kraft's can be healthier than maybe you gave him credit for, but I still think he's a injury risk this season. Watson's never played a full year. And then Jaden Reed looked so brittle last season. It's just like, there's a lot of outs for the cheapest Packers receiver to be worth it. And then he's so easy to stack with Love when you need it. Like, it's such an easy way to play. And then also, I used to take him at like pick 130 a lot. He used to go much cheaper in the early portion of the season. So I've just kind of chased him up the board. But I think he's more so like, him versus Xavier Worthy should have always been the discussion, I think. He had those like near house calls that were just like barely overthrown or like off the tip of his fingers.
Yep.
Like, one of them was a 97-yard potential touchdown. If it had hit, we would not be drafting him here. That clip that's singed into your brain.
Right. But it was incomplete. So we always overreact to these things. But if you watch the film, you know that should have been a touchdown. Mm-hmm. That changes everything. The confidence as well. Maybe, he obviously was lacking some confidence last year because there was no cohesion. He was barely on the field. It was hockey lines. And this year, unless Bo Melton's getting snaps, which he shouldn't, this should be a very consolidated wide receiver room. And, Tucker Kraft is an efficient tight end. He is a George Kittle type where it's like, he is not going to get 9 targets a game. He lives on yak and 5 or 6 targets. That's all he needs. So I'm not worried, even if he's fully healthy. I'm a big Kraft guy, about him really eating into the target share. He's not going to be Travis Kelce in his prime getting 9 targets a game. That's just not the way they use him in the blocking game quite a bit. So he'll leak out and get his, 21-yard reception on a little flare pass. But let's move on to T. Higgins. Is this a Joe Burrow thing, or you take him naked a lot and just don't care because 10 touchdowns?
Yeah, he's definitely my most stacked player with Burrow compared to Chase. It's like not even close. But I pull him up sometimes. I think in the 3rd round, I have him right behind Olave, and like, he's my wide receiver 13 in my rankings. I have him over Flowers. Whenever he's healthy, he delivers. He'll give you 10 plus touchdowns, and as long as he doesn't miss time, he has that top 5 upshot. I wish I could say he won me some best ball tournaments, but I had him in the subscriber Nice and Blunt League 2 years ago. And in week 17, his hat trick in overtime was the only reason I won. I had to drop 175 points with only a 9-player 1 flex roster, but I did it thanks to T. Higgins. So I am fully aware of his upside, and it's the only reason I think he goes there is because he usually misses at least 3 to 5 games
every year. And he's also super consistent while missing those games. It's still 7-8 touchdowns. It's still 1,000 yards. And what if it's not even paired to his health? Like, there's been a lot of Joe Burrow injuries. So last year, Chase didn't really miss a beat with Joe Flacco because Joe Flacco was like, here's 15 targets, Jamar Chase. Like, I'm just going to throw a slant to you every play. And somehow the defense, that Steelers game was insane. It was the same play every time. And the Steelers are just like, no, we're going to play soft on Jamar Chase. And it was like, I think it was 16 targets, or maybe it was like 19. It was so many targets.
It was ridiculous. But I think the Jesse Minter defense is going to be much improved this season. So I can envision another week 17 matchup like that where like Kyle Hamilton and, the Ravens defense is just double teaming Jamar Chase and trying to take him out of the game. But Burrow keeps them in it because T. Higgins is just unguardable.
So, Jonathan, yeah. So essentially, he's going to have his second round picks are going to be essentially the top. So his team, he still has all this capital. It's a lot to give up for Jeremiah Love, but if he turns into Jahmyr Gibbs, which the team has to get better for that to happen, it's going to pay off because Jeremiah Love is the truth. Well, let me ask you this real quick. In terms of talent, right? Let's go with Bijan is obviously, I think, the top of the top in the NFL, all things considered. Gibbs a little bit below him, and then give me between Gibbs and Genty, where does Jeremiah Love stack? Is he closer to Gibbs in talent or Genty?
I think he's behind Genty.
Really? You think Genty's ahead of him?
Yeah, no, Genty was a workhorse, and Genty can handle 350 touches. As explosive as Jeremiah Love is, I don't think he can be the 3-down back. I don't think he's proven it the way Genty has. Like, Genty won the Heisman. Or no, he should have won the Heisman.
It's Boise State, though. It's the Boise State thing, right?
Yeah,
that's the difference.
I keep thinking, I think he deserved to win the Heisman. I think the hype train of prime time and Coach Dion, I think sold Travis Hunter a little bit more. But there's the historic aspect, but I think it's hard to get where Genty is in terms of true talent. So I would put him straight up. I think that's the reason why he goes next to Breece Hall. They're both super talented, but their situation's bad. But any single game, can he break it open? Yes, but I just don't think he's going to be as consistent of a volume guy as Genty. So I don't put him in that spectrum. Actually, I'm lower on Jeremiah Love than probably the average person.
Tell us why you hate Jeremiah Love some more.
Situation.
Hates him.
Situation.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to tight end here because this is interesting. You are a Dallas Goedert bro. I will say this. I am a huge Pat Freiermuth fan. He is my second most drafted tight end behind who's the guy? Do you know who I'm talking about here? TJ Hockenson. Just love him. I can't wait. You know what? You can reach out to me after week 5 when he's tight end 22. You know what I'll say? He's still beating his ADP.
He probably beats his ADP. I don't think it's high enough to matter in best ball.
Can't wait till he's tight end 6, man. I can't wait.
Well, he gets
that was Jets one of my hot takes.
He does get the Jets, man. That Jets matchup is why you can't full fade any Viking. They could just be the piece you need in week 17. So you might be
I am super confident, and I don't always hit on these. I'm not a guy that makes hot takes all over the place. I don't throw 20 for sures out there every year. I'm 5 or 6. Judkins is probably there this year. I think Christian Watson's going to be that guy for me this year. And Hockenson, again, in redraft, it's kind of inconsequential because he's tight end 23. But I play a lot of really deep leagues where there's no trades, and it's everyone takes a backup tight end. And it's full PBR. I think there might be some weeks where, guess what? Injuries happen. You give me 6 for 60. Let's go. I know everyone looks at me like I'm crazy. I get this all the time. It's fine. I
just don't think it's going to happen as often as you think. That's my counterpoint.
I just can't wait. I'm gonna be naked on this program.
You'll have a few of those games. I think you'll have a few screenshots where you can. Say I told you.
Sorry, I literally think I'm the only one though in the industry that it talks about TJ Hockenson. I've yet to heard anybody. I think the Fantasy Football Garage. I think Candyman's about him, but I think he's the only one I've heard that's drafting him, that's touting him, that loves him. So obviously Candyman knows his shit.
Candyman, I respect Candyman a lot. I have.
This is what makes fantasy fun, though. This is what makes fantasy fun because a guy talking about, a 10-minute conversation that I have every day on the show about TJ Hockenson. It's fucking hilarious. But let's talk about Dallas Goedert. You're really high on Dallas Goedert. 13 touchdowns last year.
Those screenshots of Hockenson, I think just won't include the touchdown. That's the problem. But okay, we're talking about Goedert.
Yeah, your boy Goedert. He's your boy now because this is huge.
100, definitely my guy. I just don't believe in Stowers this season. I really don't. And I think all of the like value hype that was applied to Devontae Smith went a little overboard because it completely dodged Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert's ADP has never moved up. If anything, he continuously moves down. But if you look at the game logs without AJ Brown, everyone hypes how valuable Devontae Smith is, and he is. There's some stints that average like 17 points per game, but it's a really small sample size. If you look at the same small sample size with Dallas Goedert, holy shit, man. Like, he has the top 5 upside. There aren't that many tight ends that can give you 20 points in a week, like, and you expect it. But if you also go back to you remember his game against the Rams? I believe it was like 2023, maybe 2024. It was at least a couple years ago. When they need someone to step up and they really unlock Dallas Goedert, he is at times just like truly unguardable. 11 touchdowns, I think, is too high to expect. But the way he got there was so reliable. It was on 10 end zone targets. He had like 10 targets within the goal line, and he delivered on every single one. Jalen Hurts fucking trusts Dallas Goedert.
They were running so many plays for him, you know?
He's the one that's behind him pushing, too.
Yeah, the shovel pass, though, the Travis Kelce move, that was like 2 or 3 of those. Like, now, we'll see if those continue, but without A.J. Brown, why wouldn't they continue? And, you know, Dallas Goedert's always been one of those guys where he's a fringe starter, except for last year, a fringe guy. But once either Smith or A.J. Brown go down, it's like an automatic tight end 1. And now we don't have A.J. Brown. And Mekhi Lemon, I tell everyone this, people that are drafting Mekhi Lemon, his Vegas prop is 620 yards. So if you're going to draft him, you better be betting that prop, because if he doesn't hit, he can hit that prop and not actually meet ADP. So I am not a Lemon guy. I love the talent. I don't love the fit, and I don't love as a rookie. Like Dynasty, whole different conversation. Give me Mekhi Lemon. But this year, I just don't see Mekhi Lemon's not going to score any touchdowns. It's Goddard, it's Saquon, and it's probably Devonta Smith, but he's not really a huge touchdown guy himself.
Jalen Hurts can't throw it over the middle of the field. He's either taking shots or he's like looking to the sideline and checking it down. And that has become Dallas Goedert recently. So I don't think the rookie, even though I trust Howie Roseman, like Lemon probably fell for a reason. And I just don't think Jalen Hurts is like the quarterback I want to like expect that the rookie just completely shatters expectations year one. Like I think just sticking with what Jalen Hurts knows and trusts feels a lot more on brand than gambling with a new weapon. So I still think he'll be the main red zone threat. And I just don't believe in Stowers enough. And I felt like Goddard should have always gone like 15, 20 picks higher than he should. I think him versus Kelce and Kittle is a real conversation. But some of his injuries are not that repeatable. Like he broke his arm one
Agreed,
year.
yeah.
Like, that's bad luck. But last year he bet on himself, 11 touchdowns in a contract season, and it's a 1-year deal. So it's another contract season. Put up or shut up. I think Goddard, if he stays healthy, absolutely outperforms his ADP.
Let's glaze Pat Freiermuth a little bit. And for me, I've always loved the talent. It's another one of these kind of boring tight ends, but he's the last of the Mohicans. He goes so late, and it's a perfect third tight end. If I take Bowers or McBride, I am comfortable going with just Pat Freiermuth in a 2 tight end build. No Jonnu Smith. I get that sometimes there's some crossover with Pittman and Freiermuth. I understand that. But Darnell Washington, they're going to play a lot of 12. He's a monster. He's going to get his 2 targets a game and probably score some touchdowns. But Pat Freiermuth is going to be the receiving tight end there, and he makes quite a bit of money. He's not an old dude. He should be going, closer to Dalton Schultz in my mind. He should be going in that tier. Bretton Strange, right? Like, yeah, I'd probably rather have those guys. But I think Freiermuth has more of a path for the target share. Now, they're going to have less volume there with Aaron Rodgers. This defense isn't great. I know they have the very high-paid defense there in Pittsburgh, but it was really bad last year. And Pat Freiermuth, like tight end, 28, 29?
Yeah.
Super late. It's free.
Well, that's where he finished last year in points per game. He was tight end 29 in points per game, and he had the same amount of targets as Jonnu Smith, but he had twice the production as Jonnu Smith. So with him leaving, it consolidates the room, and like the crowd likes, they got they had the Heath Miller chant, Heath, and then when they moved off, it was then Muth. You know, like it's just what Pittsburgh is. You know, like it feeds they still play Renegade every fucking game. You know, like they play the hits. So like that's I think somewhat part of the equation. And then I think the underrated aspect of that you mentioned is how bad the defense can be. Where like if Mike Tomlin really is this like, you know, defensive guru and like, you know, matchup like wizard for like primetime games and stuff, like how bad is that going to fall off this year with this like almost decrepit aging roster? You know what I mean? Where like I don't even know who their defensive coordinator is, but there's no fucking chance I'm like confident in it. So I am a little worried about Darnell Washington. Not gonna lie, there's parts of me that are like maybe they do just like him and like the dude is just like a monster and like doesn't play as much O-line this year. But to protect Aaron Rodgers,
right,
I think he has to.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look up Pat Freiermuth's contract, it's $11.6 million per season in APY. Where would you guess that ranks at the position in terms of contracts?
Super high, like 7?
Number 9. Ninth
Pretty high,
highest
dude.
paid tight end in the league. That I think speaks for itself. Granted, Darnell Washington is also pretty high. Let me look up his while I'm at it before I pretend.
Well, you
like
mentioned
guaranteed.
you know the Jonnu Smith thing, but Pat Freiermuth was not on the field last year. What was his snap share? It was like 43% every game until the end of the season where it really went up a little bit.
The Arthur Smith, Jonnu Smith nepotism was a major factor. But I will acknowledge Darnell Washington is the 13th highest paid tight end as well. So that may
they do love him there. Why the hell is Darnell Washington paid that much?
I
guess they're paying him right tackle. Yeah, they're paying him right tackle money.
I think because they have Rodgers, it's that much more important.
It is. I love, you know, Rodgers doesn't want to get hit. I think this year he's going to kind of play with his dick out a little bit because it's Aaron Rodgers and this is it for him. I think this is it for him. And last couple of years, though, he has just been getting rid of the ball really quick, which is going to benefit a guy like Pat Freiermuth. So I love the ADP. This is similar to the Hawkinson thing, right? Like I don't see a lot of upside in terms of like him finishing top 10. If he's tight end 19, you're making a lot of money on this pick. A lot of money.
Well, this is why I don't take Hawkinson because it's all about the price. I'm not really sold that he will deliver like tight end 19. Actually, I think that's actually probably unlikely, unless there's an injury and Rodgers just hates Jeremy Bernard, the rookie, because he's a rookie and doesn't trust him. But I don't.
That's the thing though with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
he missed one assignment and you're in the doghouse, buddy.
There is that. So if you told me Metcalf goes down this year, I think that's where Freiermuth crushes. If you look at Jake Ferguson under Mike McCarthy, it's always been like when someone gets hurt. But there are those huge games and matchups I think are going to determine this for Freiermuth. The only like real flash of brilliance last season was against the Bengals when they lost to Joe Flacco. So, you know, that may be part of the equation. Not every week I think he's going to crush. But it's all about ADP, and I'd rather take Freiermuth as my tight end 3. When I've taken a lot of Rodgers too. I just think he's worth that cost at the very least, and I don't like to take other positions in that round. He's moved up the board a little bit as well.
All right, let's end it with a couple of late names here that you have that are still above board. Terrence Ferguson. Let's just talk about Terrence Ferguson because they don't have a third receiver there. I mean, they're trying to figure it out. They don't. You know, Mumfield's okay, but this is probably the answer. And I know as people want to make Jordan Whittington a thing, he is nothing more than a backup for Puka. And even when that happens, guess what? They just run a fuckload of 12 and 13. So Ferguson was awesome last year. Let's not forget Ferguson kept Sadiq off the field at Oregon. That happened. Great year last year in terms of per target stuff. Looked awesome. But the other thing is, look at all the tight ends there. Like, who's the guy that's missing out? I think Higbee should be off this roster. You know, drafting Max Clare was just a weird pick. Like Max Clare and Ty Simpson, what the hell are they doing? These guys aren't helping them this year, and they're going for the Super Bowl. Weird picks, but you know what? I'm not going to question what they're doing there because they're obviously building a banger. But
yeah,
is Ferguson the number one there? Is he going to lead this team in snap share? Because he has to. I feel like for what's best for this team is him being on the field.
I'm not fully sold on that, actually. I actually think there's a decent argument for Colby Parkinson maintaining the status quo in terms of snap share, at least rankings. The gap will at least be bridged. I think it's more of a 50-50, close to tie between the two of them. I guess it can't be 50-50 with all the other tight ends, but I don't think it's going to be as significant of a gap as last season was. And in best ball, I'm chasing that 20-point upside, like I mentioned with Goddard. There's not that many guys that can do it. But in terms of ADOT, Terrence Ferguson blew out every other tight end, like no comparison. I believe it was like 18 yards ADOT. No other tight end, or maybe that was even yards per reception. I forget exactly what the number was, but I know he like clearly ranked number one. No comparison. Shout out who
it was downfield. It was efficient as well, and it's Matt Stafford. Come on, single coverage for this monster.
I saw that on Huhaim's channel, and it speaks to his like skill set. And when you watch the tape, he's giving you like a 40-yard house call on a lot of his like target share. Like the highlight reel involves these really explosive plays. There's not that many tight ends that can produce. I loved him a lot last year. I thought the second round capital just was like, well, I trust McVay. If they're going to spend that much, they really like this guy. It's weird that they have 5, that they paid Higbee, and that they also brought in Claire. And then, what, don't they still have Davis Allen as well? Like
Davis Allen is on the roster, man. It's 15 personnel time. 15 personnel, if that's a thing.
It's crazy, but I think Terrence Ferguson is going to fill that like Van Jefferson role, essentially. It's at tight end, so it looks different. But there was also the game when the first week Adams went down. They tried to make Terrence Ferguson a thing. They gave him like 3 end zone looks. One of them was, I believe, negated by penalty. Another one I think he caught, but then the other one he was like really bad on. It was kind of like the Isaac Tesla thing, where he did have his chance and he just, the rookie jitters or whatever, he just didn't quite pay off. But he can drop a 12+ point game, and where he's going in the cost, I think he has much higher upside than Freiermuth. I kind of wish I had more of him than Freiermuth. I've been kind of trying to chase him up lately just because for whatever reason, I just didn't take him too much. But last year I had well more than this. Last year, I believe I had like 16%. So it's too crowded to know for sure, but he's definitely the highest upside of the guys they got.